Hi everyone, today we're going to be diving into the horror movie of a fairy tale, The Robber Bridegroom, and its different variants. I have talked about The Robber Bridegroom before, and in that one I spent way more time on Fitcher's Bird and Bluebeard and didn't really dig into The Robber Bridegroom on its own or talk about any of its cultural variants. First, we're going to talk about the one called The Robber Bridegroom, recorded by the Grimm brothers. Starts with a miller who has a beautiful daughter, and he's looking for someone to marry her off to, and then this rich suitor comes by, and so he promises his daughter to this man. Now, the daughter from the very start does not like him. Women's guts knowing what's up since the 1800s. One day he's like, you should come visit me at my house. And she's like, don't know where it is. And he's like, don't worry, you can follow a path of ashes to my house in the deep dark woods. Sounds super legit and safe. So again, this girl trusts her gut. She takes a bunch of lentils and keeps them in her pocket, and as she follows the trail of ashes, she leaves the path of lentils for herself for later. Gets to this house that's all by itself in the darkest part of the woods. Gotta say, the Brothers Grimm did a really good job recording the creepy atmospheric elements of this story. As she approaches the door, it's absolutely silent until she hears a voice say, turn back, you young bride, you are in a murderer's house. Looks up, and it's coming from a bird. And as we know, especially about the Grimm fairy tales, birds are often messengers and harbingers of truth. Goes inside, goes down to the cellar, and she finds an old woman there. He's like, hey, is this my bridegroom's house? And the old woman is like, oh, you poor thing. They're planning to chop you up, cook you, and eat you because he and his band of robbers are all cannibals. He says, go hide behind this barrel because I hear them coming. And once they've fallen asleep, we'll both escape. I've been waiting for this opportunity forever because it's clear she doesn't want to be here either. So here's the part that is just really horrifying. So the bridegroom and his men come in drunk and carrying this other maiden. And even this image is a lot for me and probably for lots of people. The maiden is screaming. They force her to drink and then they rip off all her clothes. They lay her on a table, chop up her body, and sprinkle salt on it. So they're trying to pry off all her jewelry, and they can't get the ring off one of her fingers, so they just chop it, and the finger with the ring on it goes flying back behind the barrel. And they're like, oh, we better go get it. The old woman's like, oh, I don't see it back here. Let's look for it in the morning when it's brighter. Don't worry about that. And they listen to her. They eat the girl. They're already drunk, but the old woman gives them a sleeping potion wine and they absolutely pass out. And so the girl and our old lady escape. Thankfully, the girl has left that lentil trail because the wind has blown all the ashes away, which of course was probably his plan. And so they make it back to her house. She tells her family everything and they basically plan revenge / justice. The wedding day comes, he shows up for the wedding, they're having a feast before the wedding, and the dad's like, hey daughter, do you have something to say to your husband? And she's like, yeah, I want to tell him about this dream that I had. And so she stands up and tells everyone there everything that happened, saying it was a dream. Every time she gets to a new detail, the husband's like, ah! And she's like, darling, why are you upset? It's only a dream. But then finally when she gets to the end, she pulls that finger with the ring out of her pocket, and it's proof that everything she said was true. He tries to escape, but the whole wedding party jumps on him, and he and all of his cohorts get executed for their evil deeds. Even though this is one of the most horrifying fairy tales to me that fills me with deep, primal dread, I kind of love it. I love that the woman helps her. I like the women helping each other. I like that the girl is resourceful and her gut knows the truth from the very beginning. I love when she is believed and gets justice. Fantasy that I wish was true in real life more than it is. There's an English fairy tale counterpart to this called Mr. Fox, and he's not a fox, he's a dude. He is a rich bachelor that everyone likes because he's real smarmy and convincing, kind of like the guy in The Robber Bridegroom at the beginning. And our main character is called Lady Mary, and he invites her to his house, and she goes one day. His house is full of warnings, though. Over the door when she gets there, it says what it says up here in the picture. Be bold, but not too bold, lest that your heart's blood should run cold. She goes inside, looks around, she finds another chamber where this is written again, and when she goes in there, there are skeletons and buckets of blood everywhere. Very Bluebeard / Fitcher's Bird. She starts to leave, but then she sees Mr. Fox coming with this other young maiden that he's dragging by the hair. She grips the banister and he cuts off her hand, and her hand with a fancy bracelet falls into Lady Mary's lap, and she keeps it and gets out somehow. Then he comes over for the wedding banquet, and it goes exactly like the Robber Bridegroom, except instead of a finger, it's the hand with the bracelet that she's holding there. And in that one, the guests just immediately cut him into pieces. The grossest and most disturbing version by far is called the Cannibal Innkeeper from Romania. There's an orphan girl who's only been left this little dog by her parents. When the rich bad guy robber guy wants to marry her, she says no, and he carries her away by force with his band of robbers. But she still refuses to marry him, even after threats and abuse, so he sells her to a cannibal innkeeper. So this innkeeper robs people, steals from them, kills them, cooks them, and feeds them to his other inn guests. He tells her all of this, he terrorizes her with their stolen objects, and he locks her and her dog in this little room. There's even a detail where he kills a child and makes her cook it and feed it to the guests. Then he brings in this old, skinny, wrinkled woman and locks her in the room with our girl because he wants to fatten her up before he kills her. And she tells the girl, hey, I'm actually his mother in disguise, and I'm a witch, and we're stopping this guy. But she says, hey, if you want to escape, you're gonna have to kill your dog and eat its heart. And so she does. Then the old woman puts ointment all over her body that turns her into a duck. But when he comes in and opens the door, she just flies out as a duck and escapes. While he's running around looking for it, the old woman mutters a curse that brings the house down on both of them, kills them both. And the girl escapes, but then looks back on it and she's like, well, I don't know how to not be a duck, and the woman's dead now, and so it says she remains a duck to this very day. Which I guess is better, though. All right, so if you've never heard of it, The Robber Bridegroom is a musical from 1975 based on a book called The Robber Bridegroom by this woman that's set in Mississippi and really doesn't have anything to do with the Robber Bridegroom story. If anything, it's more Cupid and Psyche. Our main hero is the Robber Bridegroom. Our main girl wants him, sexually desires him, has lots of agency, but he only likes non-consensual sex, aka grape. The end of Act 1 is her coming to his den and saying, let's do this. I'll show you. What he does next is sing a song about how he only likes cookies that are stolen from the cookie jar. He only wants things that he takes against the other person's will while he takes all her clothes off, and it ends with him getting on top of her, and that's the end of Act 1. What I just showed you is a clip from a made-for-TV version of it from 1980. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube. I'm not showing it here because it's awful. They revived this in 2016 and apparently tried to make that part better by having him not knock her out. She just passed out. I don't think that's much better. I saw a local production of this a few years ago. I did not know about this show when I went to see it. I probably wouldn't have gone. They have him knock her out. He sings the whole song, but then at the very end, she wakes up, gets on top of him, and is like, we're doing this my way. Still didn't help it for me. I hate everything about the show, but if someone made the real Robber Bridegroom into a musical or into a movie with all of the female justice and camaraderie, and the rapist being the bad guys who get punished in the end and not the protagonist who wins and gets the girl in the end, I would like that better. That's it for today. I have a new episode of my podcast, Folktales and Fairy Lore. Andrea Lynn dropping tomorrow. I talk about The Little Mermaid and The Red Shoes, also graphic and horrible, but so much fun. So check it out. The link is in my bio, and check out my book, Dust Spells, which is a reimagining of the 12 Dancing Princesses, and I'll see you next time.